I'm Mark Halperin, and welcome to this week's Focus Group, our chance to hear from people all over the country. This has already been one of the most momentous years in modern American history, and now we have a new topic to discuss. When is it appropriate to send federal law enforcement officers into the streets of an American city to do things like arrest people and use tear gas? There is no clear answer to that question. There's lots of discussion about it, lots of debate, and every city, every case is different. When a major American city is dealing with this, many people think it's reasonable for a president to say and do this.
We'll work every single day to restore public safety, protect our nation's children, and bring violent perpetrators to justice. We've been doing it, and you've been seeing what's happening all around the country. We've just started this process, and frankly, we have no choice but to get involved.
This new program, called the Political Banana Republic Move by Democrats, started with law enforcement officers around the federal courthouse in Portland, Oregon, arresting people on the streets, using tear gas, and generating a menacing presence and a backlash.
As you know, Portlanders will continue to fight once we get rid of these federal occupying forces.
Oregon's governor wants the federal officers off Portland streets.
This is a democracy, not a dictatorship. We cannot have secret police abducting people and putting them in unmarked vehicles. I cannot believe I have to say that to the President of the United States.
Portland's mayor joined the protest on Wednesday night himself and got tear gassed along with the crowd.
They do not act with probable cause. People are not being told who they are being arrested by, and they're being denied basic constitutional rights.
This whole thing is a big constitutional and human mess. Would have been better if the feds had been invited in by the locals, like when the mayor of Little Rock, Arkansas, asked President Eisenhower to send in federal troops to help integrate the state's public schools. And if you're searching for a political motive for the president's actions, look no further than his campaign's many new TV ads focused squarely on the law and order theme.
Seattle's pledge to defund its police department by 50%, even including a proposal.
Democrats say the politics of all this and the principles are clear.
It's despicable. It's like a third world despotic country where you pick up someone, no identification, drag him somewhere, and he doesn't even know or she doesn't even know what's doing. It's so typical of Trump. He can't solve the COVID crisis. Testing is a mess. The whole country realizes he's an abject failure, so he tries to do a diversionary thing.
But there's politics on the Democrat side as well, as they seek every advantage before the campaign heats up in the fall.
You know, Donald Trump has fanned the flames of hate in this country across the board through his words, his policies, his appointments, his deeds, and he continues to fan those flames.
Let's bring in our focus group now and talk about what we just saw and about this important issue. I want to start with Faith in North Carolina. Faith, what are your feelings about the use of national, federal law enforcement personnel on the streets like is going on in Portland now?
I think it's ridiculous. I mean, they're federal troops. They're invading the city. They're not helping at all. And I think the last time anyone asked for this type of assistance, it was to help, to follow the law. And here they're there to just instigate and cause more problems with the law.
This is just some diversion.
He talked about people that don't have ID. Who here goes outside without ID? I don't even know who he's talking about.
With regards to the protesters, they're going out without identification because they're all being arrested and followed and taunted, and they kind of want to, at some point, not have the opportunity for these people to come back to their homes.
I don't completely disagree with Rhonda and Faith. I know that they don't have their names right on their chest, but what about the safety of the federal officers?
The safety of the federal officers would be protected if they were in something that was marked. I mean, that's the part that stands out the most to me is there's so many groups that like to dress in their paramilitary type fatigues and go out and engage in this type of activity. And what they're doing is setting up a scenario where protesters don't know the difference.
Federal officers, they're engaging in our cities every single day. if there's a federal crime committed, that's the FBI investigating that within those cities. So now we have a scenario where mayors, governors are not reacting and providing solutions. So you have the federal government stepping in and saying, look, you have to do something, either provide solutions or we're going to have to provide solutions.
I mean, we have Confederates, I'll call them, all over the country who are looking like, acting like police officers, and it's complete chaos.
Angela, do you have sympathy for the president's position that there is a threat to federal buildings, that there is some concern that the cities are not being put under control and chaos is breaking out?
I can understand the concern for infrastructure and not wanting cities to burn down, but this is not the time to send these federal troops in unmarked vehicles with their tear gas, causing all of this chaos, especially in a situation where we're talking about police brutalities. And I think this is just adding more chaos to already chaotic situation.
I remember seeing somebody taking a dump on the street. It was such a disgusting place, New York City. Giuliani came and he said, one window cracked, you're out of here. And you know what? The city was a beautiful place after that. And I remember as a child. So for those of you that don't want law enforcement and you want chaos, you can move to Syria.
That's not what this is. Not having law enforcement and what we have right now in Portland, there's a huge difference between those two things. And no one has said anything about not having law enforcement, but here you can't even tell who law enforcement is.
I'm in Arkansas. I've seen the hate. I can understand both the need to protect infrastructure, but I also understand the need for people that are protesting to know that they are the people that are policing them are being properly identified for who they are.
Part of it begins with the local government even wanting them there in the first place, having collaboration between the two entities. There isn't that right now. You have this invasion of federal troops coming into a place where the local government has stated that they do not want them there.
Thank you for that spirited discussion. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the pandemic and the president's leadership right after this. Welcome back. Every army needs a leader, and there's no question that America's fight against this pandemic is being led by President Trump. There have been questions raised all along about his leadership style and how he's approached the task. Now he's made some changes, and it is sometimes difficult to tell where President Trump ends and candidate Trump begins. It was still Donald Trump, but the change in emphasis was impossible to miss.
Thank you very much. We mourn every precious life that's been lost. Some areas of our country are doing very well, others are doing less well. As cases and fatalities rise in certain hard-hit states, rise in the cases in many parts of our South. Florida is in a little tough or in a big tough position. Fortunately, get worse before it gets better. To use masks, socially distance, and employ vigorous hygiene. When you are not able to socially distance, wear a mask. Today, I have the mask right here. I carry it, and I will use it gladly.
The media called it somber, but it was also realistic. At the same time, Trump conveyed the kind of optimism generally associated with successful presidents and successful presidential candidates.
Protect our workers, our schools, and our families, and protect them very strongly. And we will defeat the virus. We're doing very well. My administration will stop at nothing to save lives. And the vaccines are coming, and they're coming a lot sooner than anyone thought possible. We've been able to greatly reduce mortality in the United States. Fatalities nationwide have fallen. We've done much better than most. Keep doing the good job, and things will get better and better. Things are happening, too. Like a lot of very positive things are happening. The virus will disappear.
Most of the press was skeptical, focusing on the change in tone.
Good morning. A change in tone from President Trump.
Change in tone.
President Trump took a more serious tone.
Now we have a significant shift in tone.
Changing his tone.
A significant shift in tone.
Now President Trump is changing his tone.
President Trump changing his tone.
The president's new tone.
We saw that slight tone change in tone from the president.
Joe Biden also unimpressed by the president's leadership.
His own staff admits that Donald Trump fails the most important test of being an American president, the duty to care. You know, he's quit on you, and he's quit on this country.
And Biden's buddy, not particularly awed by Trump either.
I have confidence that you're going to actually listen to the experts.
Yeah.
And you're going to pay attention to the science. And you're not going to quit on trying to actually bend down the curve of disease and transmission rates.
So let's bring our group back in and talk about this. Terry in Massachusetts, I want to start with you. Did the president do anything this week that made you have more confidence in his ability to lead this effort?
Unfortunately, it's too late. He should have been doing this months ago. He should have been a leader. He should have led by example with his mask. And unfortunately, tens of thousands of lives were lost because of his inaptitude.
I would definitely say that he is sending a complete mixed message. You can't say wear a mask and then he doesn't do it himself and expect the people to follow. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Rhonda, you're from California. Many of you come from states with Democratic governors. Do you hold Governor Newsom just as responsible for the problems as the president?
I blame the man at the top, the president. Newsom did a very, very effective job at the beginning of the pandemic, and we were sort of the leaders in what to do that was right, and the rest of the states followed. But what happened is our citizens, especially in the LA area, did not take it seriously, and they ended up going to various places and they didn't wear masks and they didn't social distance. The next thing we knew, we're now surpassing the cases. I think Newsom's done the best job he can under the circumstances.
In Arkansas, we've had, Governor Hutchinson at one time, he was praised by Dr. Fauci for the job that he did with the virus, and now we've got the virus growing. We had 1,000 cases in little old Arkansas. And part of that comes from, and again, this was a state that went pretty heavy for Trump. President Trump said, that masks, the people wearing masks were actually trying to send a message that they were against Trump, and here I'm a middle voter. I'm one that, undecided. I wore a mask because I believe the health experts were telling me the truth, that it would help cut down on the spread. So the mixed messages that we've received from the White House have hurt on the state level because people listen to what the president says more than they listen to what the governor says.
I think one thing that Trump has been consistent on is being incompetent. He changes his mind like the wind, but it's not in the right direction. And Dr. Fauci has been telling everyone, initially he was saying he didn't want everyone out running to buy masks and hoard masks because the people in the hospitals needed them, the doctors, the nurses. At that time, we were all supposed to be staying home. There was no need for everyone to wear all of these masks. He just kind of opened the floodgates and let everybody out. Then of course, then he suggested that people wear masks. And none of those times was Trump in favor of wearing a mask, and it has something to do with looking weak.
I'm 5 minutes outside of New York City, right? I watched a Navy ship come in. I watched them build a hospital at the Javits Center, and nobody was ever in any of those hospitals. President Trump did a really good job. He brought all that stuff in, and then we didn't even need any of it. We didn't need any of it. It was gone in a week.
Cuomo, he really set the tone and his...
Right, by letting everybody go into nursing homes. But
yeah,
Cuomo... He let the gates out, so you actually listened to him? I thought you said no one listens to him. And you said he let the gates out and everyone listens, but you said no one listens to him. So I think you're confusing what you're saying. First you're saying that no one listens to him, and then you said he opens the gates and everybody listens.
I don't think anybody did a fantastic job. From President Trump down to the governors.
Raise your hand if you think overall, thinking about the president, your governor, your local officials, raise your hand if you think overall the government has let the citizens down in how they've performed during the pandemic. Raise your hand. Okay. And raise your hand if you think President Trump is owed some deference and he should be allowed to have the support. He should have the support of the American people as he tries to deal with the pandemic. Raise your hand if you think he should have the support because he's the president. Okay. All right, folks, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about tech and what people think of some of the leading figures there right after this. Welcome back. We're now going to do one of my favorite segments on this program. What do you think? Here are two of the richest people in the country and two of the leading figures in tech. First, let's take a look at the man who started and runs Amazon, Jeff Bezos.
Nobody likes to fail. By the way, failure, even when you know it's important and good, it's embarrassing. It doesn't feel good. We're all human. We had a good idea. We thought it was a good idea, and nobody came to the party. That happens. And here's the great thing, though. One success, one winner, can pay for dozens and dozens of failures. And that is why you should fail.
So I don't want you to evaluate him solely on the outfit he was wearing. But Angela, let me ask you first, what are your general feelings about Jeff Bezos?
Amazon has showed that they are going to commit to various initiatives. I've seen that on their website. I think that's a great thing. Tend to have a favorable view of Jeff Bezos.
Raise your hand if you are a Amazon Prime member. Raise your hand. All right. And for the two of you who aren't, I won't ask you why, but do you use Amazon? Do you buy things from Amazon?
I definitely buy some things from Amazon.
Bo, what do you think? Not of the company, but what do you think of Jeff Bezos?
Yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about Jeff Bezos. He's obviously created something pretty incredible that people around the world use.
Sherry, what do you think of Jeff Bezos? Do you have positive or negative feelings about him overall?
He pretty much changed the way we do business.
Who agrees with Angela that Amazon seems to be a company under Jeff Bezos' leadership that's trying to do good and help society? Who agrees with that? Anybody disagree with that? Okay, I want you to give me one word to describe Jeff Bezos, okay? Just one word.
Capitalist.
Rhonda?
Enterprising.
Faith?
Arrogant.
Mark West?
Employer.
Bo?
Visionary.
Okay, Sherry?
Brilliant.
Terry?
Visionary as well.
Okay, and Angela?
Innovative.
Okay. How many of you use Facebook? Raise your hand. All of you but one. Let's take a look now at the guy who started it and runs it, Mark Zuckerberg.
Last year, I gave this speech around our principles around free expression. And, that's just one of the areas that I really feel like is under attack right now. Increasingly, we're getting called to censor a lot of different kinds of content that makes me really uncomfortable. I think that it kind of feels like the list of things that you're not allowed to say socially keeps on growing, and I'm not really okay with that.
All right, so there's another guy who's talking about the power of the major tech companies in the country. Faith, let me ask you, what do you think of Mark Zuckerberg?
Disloyal.
All right, who has a positive view of Mark Zuckerberg? Let me hear it from you.
I think he's enterprising, visionary, brilliant, and he's a stand-up guy.
Okay, so you're generally positive about him, but let me press you here. What are some negative things you associate with him?
Some of my friends have been in Facebook jail for certain things that really they shouldn't be.
Do the other 7 of you have generally negative feelings about Mark Zuckerberg?
Yes.
Yes.
What are your negative feelings about him? Why do you have them?
I just think that he's like the thought police.
Mark West, what are your negative feelings based on?
My negative feeling really comes around the issue of data rights. He's built a huge profitable enterprise off of our data rights, and now he tries to put this kind of clamp down control on the vehicle that he's used to get our data rights that he's making a lot of money off of.
Rhonda, what are your negative feelings based on?
The 2016 election and the Russian interference, and I heard, that Facebook was one of the vehicles they used in order to do that, and that's very concerning for the next election.
Well, I think Mark Zuckerberg keeps getting caught in these controversies. You have this platform that billions of people use around the world. There's data issues, there's privacy issues, there's these jail issues. Facebook continues to find itself in these controversies, and they've made poor decisions in the past as it pertains to transparency issues with data. And when you have a company of this magnitude, of this size, that so many people are involved, it's just bound to attract so much attention and criticism.
Raise your hand if you feel a little bit weird about having negative feelings about Mark Zuckerberg and to some extent about the company, but using Facebook on a regular basis. Raise your hand if you feel a little bit weird about that.
In an upside down world.
Hate it.
Yeah. Okay. One word each. Again, we'll go around. How you feel about Mark Zuckerberg?
An evil genius.
Evil genius. Sherry.
Brilliant.
Okay. Bo.
He's a hypocrite.
Dave.
Self-serving.
Mark West.
Cambridge Analytica.
Angela.
Confusing.
Mark Pecora.
Liar.
Okay. And Rhonda.
Smart but controversial.
Marco controversial. All right. I want to thank you all for joining us today and having such a great discussion. Really appreciate it. And I want to thank you at home for watching. You can watch this program again right here on Newsmax TV at the same time next week, Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And then again, Sundays, our encore performance at 2:30 Eastern Time right here on Newsmax TV. And if you'd like to be a participant in a future episode of this program, you can send us an email. Send an email to focusgroup@walkingduck.com. That's focusgroup@walkingduck.com. Tell us you're interested, and we will be in touch. So what did we learn today? Well, I learned that although there's a big national discussion and sometimes contentious discussion about whether law enforcement officers should be on the streets of cities like Portland, that in fact people see a solution. They think if federal forces need to be there in order to keep the peace and protect federal property, that they should be there, but they should be there in a much more open way, a more cooperative way, not shrouded in secrecy and not menacing the local population, but trying to do what they're there to do, which is to restore order. We also learned, I think, that in the case of President Trump, although he gets a lot of blame in the national discussion, he's not the only one people blame. The group was pretty unanimous in saying that all levels of government, they think, have failed the country in terms of leadership during the pandemic. And I think there'll be a lot of discussion about that in the months and years ahead. And we learned something I hear all the time, that people like Mark Zuckerberg a lot less than they like Jeff Bezos. They might use both Facebook and Amazon, but the head of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, is a lot more popular with people. Mark Zuckerberg, not particularly popular with people both on the left and on the right. That's all the time we have for today. Appreciate you watching. You can see us next week right here for another focus group.